Good morning. It is early. We are heading out to the garden to do some projects, but first I need to make some coffee. I have not been able to get out to the garden and do anything because we had a couple days of rain, which is pretty rare for us in, what is this? August, very early August. Typically, we don't get rain all summer long, and we had 2 days of rain. It almost felt like fall, which I was not ready for because I have not even harvested my first slicing tomato yet. Pretty sure there's one out there actually that we're gonna harvest today. But before we go out there, priorities, right? I'm gonna make a big pot of coffee so that we can take some coffee out there. So we're gonna be doing a lot of harvesting. We've got some projects we need to get done out there. We need to rip a couple crops out because they're done for the season, replant, and then we're gonna come inside and do a couple projects with those items that we're gonna harvest. So I just have some freshly ground coffee here. It smells incredible. I'll get that going. I've got my basket here full of harvesting equipment, gloves, seeds, and it's gonna be a great morning. Cheers. I dare to say, but it kind of feels like fall out here, which is odd, and I am not ready for it. I think once these clouds burn off, it'll start to warm up. And I think what we're gonna start with this morning is tackling these peas. I'm gonna harvest what I can harvest, and then we're gonna pull them, and then we're gonna replant something. And I am about to walk into a spider web. Oh my goodness. There is another one that goes from here all the way to up there. Here's pretty evident where the rains came in and kind of smashed everything down because it was quite a torrential downpour. We have been able to eat our weight in these sugar snap peas. They have been the gift that keeps on giving, but they are petering out now. Some of them have died back. Some of them are kind of bitter at this point. So I'm gonna harvest what I can. I currently right now in my freeze dryer, I'm gonna pull it out as soon as I'm done with this, is some sugar snap peas that I blanched and seasoned. And I'm gonna try to make sugar snap veggie straws. We're gonna see how those turn out. We'll probably just eat these ones fresh though. Look at what I just found. 3 of my first mini pumpkins. Really excited about that. So I can see on these plants, there are a few flowers on here, which will turn into peas, but the majority of these plants are dead and producing seed and kind of bitter. So I just harvested the small tender ones. You will see when I pull these off, you're gonna see a few on here. I could save these seeds, but the flavor of them was not my favorite. I can't remember exactly which variety I planted. I think I planted a couple different ones because some of them are snow pea-like. Oh, I can see a ton I missed. And some of them are like sugar snap pea. So I don't want to save the seed from any of these. And I'm just going to plant more from the seed I already have. My favorite are Oregon snow peas. And I don't think I planted any of those this year. And so I am going to do a second planting of Oregon snow peas. I already showed you all and did a taste test, if you missed it, of the sugar snap peas, but I'll tell you real quick how I made them. And they're already completely gone because they were absolutely delicious and a huge hit with everybody in my family. So what I did is I took the sugar snap peas, I blanched them for 2 minutes in boiling water. I put them in ice cold water to stop the cooking process. And I did salt that water that I blanched them in. And then I sprinkled some salt on top, freeze dried them. They were crunchy. They were delicious. They're kind of like those pea veggie straw thingies that you can buy. Now, when I did that, many of you guys gave some really good recommendations that I want to try next time. We already ate these sugar snap peas fresh, but you're going to see we're going to do a second planting for the fall. Many of you guys said you have seasoned your snow peas when you have done them. So you've done like homemade ranch powder, or you've done kind of like a taco seasoning. Chipotle would be fantastic. And so I'm really excited to play around with some other flavors. So what I'm doing here is just pulling out all of the spent pea greens. I'm getting them into this wheelbarrow. This is one of 2 areas in the garden where we have peas. We're going to go to our other area in the garden and we're going to go ahead and clean that up as well. It feels good to have that done, and I think this looks a lot better. So what I'm going to do now is actually plant more peas along this same row. I'm going to leave the plants in the ground that I just cut off, and the roots are just going to compost in the ground, and that's going to build organic material in the ground. It's not going to be too long before I harvest the onions. What I'm thinking the benefit of keeping the onions in and then planting the peas is peas are a cold weather crop. And even though we've had a couple days of cold-ish I think the high in the last like 4 days was like 75. We're gonna get back up into the 80s and 90s. And so I'm thinking that these onions are gonna provide some shade for the young plants for the next month or so. We'll harvest the onions, then it will be a little bit cooler, and then they can grow up in a little bit cooler of an environment. So that's what I'm thinking. I have quite a few just random bags of seeds. I don't really have enough to plant the entire thing, so I'm just going to plant what I have and try to use up some of these seed packets. That's one thing I've been working on this year, is trying to use some of my seed packets up that are just kind of random, so when I order next year, I can be a little bit more intentional. I really do love these Oregon snow peas. I'm gonna go ahead and get a couple of these planted in here. I'm just going to dig a little trench. And I like to plant them about 1 inch apart. I could have soaked these last night, but I didn't. And so I'm just gonna get these in the ground. This soil's pretty damp because of the last bit of rain we've had. So I think these aren't gonna have a hard time germinating. Okay, so that one seed packet got me that far. So now I'm gonna go ahead and cover them with about 1 inch of soil. So one thing I did as well is I tried to weed what I could if I saw weeds in here. Next year I'm gonna move my trellises around, I believe. Okay, so now these are some random seeds that I got, I think 2 years ago when they were on sale at the grocery store. I ended right there. Now we're going to do a little bit more harvesting because I saw this beauty and I can't help myself. We will have this for dinner tonight. One thing I'm seeing a lot of are absolutely beautiful green Roma tomatoes. I cannot wait to make more of that roasted marinara sauce that I made last year. It was absolutely incredible and I can't wait to make it again. So we're coming over here and we're gonna pick some tomatoes. So one of my favorite combinations is zucchini and tomato. And so that is gonna be our side for dinner tonight. I'm pretty sure I have quite a few ready to go that are hiding in this jungle. Let's see, here we go. There we go. Got those plants out of the black beans. It's only going to be a matter of time before we are bombarded with cherry tomatoes, and I'm not going to know what to do with all of them. And that's going to be a fun problem to have. And I think those tomatoes, before too long, are going to be climbing way up this trellis. I know I've got a few more over here that are ready. I did not start any of these cherry tomatoes myself. I don't really know what I was thinking by not starting cherry tomatoes. I knew I wanted a lot of Roma tomatoes, which I have, but cherry tomatoes ripen a lot faster than a big slicing tomato. And we've been eating on these for a few weeks now, and if I hadn't have purchased a couple of these, we still wouldn't have any fresh garden tomatoes to be enjoying at this point. And you can see one of them split from the rain, but that's gonna be okay. Look what I just found out of the corner of my eye. Our first cucumber. I have struggled with cucumbers this year. Oh my goodness. We might actually get one, which would be pretty awesome. I'm going to train these plants to grow out of the bed. Gardening is the game for those that are persistent, I have learned this year. I started cucumbers indoors. I planted them out. They died because I planted them before it was warm enough. I put seeds in the ground. They didn't germinate. I purchased seeds. The slugs got them. Or I purchased starts. The slugs got them. And then I purchased those and they didn't look very good until just now. So we might just get a cucumber. Cucumbers aren't my favorite, but I do like a couple cucumbers from the summer garden. Okay, so now what I think I'm gonna do is harvest some flowers to make our garlic braids, because I wanna do that today. Before we harvest any flowers, I think what I wanna do is go ahead and take out these sweet peas. They're covered in aphids and they are just done for the year. It's too warm. There are a few flowers on there yet, but I think they have served their purpose in the garden. I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna cut at the base. Sweet peas, every part of the plant is toxic for humans. I don't know if they're toxic for chickens. Yeah, I wanna get these out of here. So I'm gonna do some Googling, and I probably will end up just putting these just in the woods and let them compost in the woods. They are one of the most fragrant flower I have ever smelled. Like a very high quality perfume, or the best rose you've ever smelled. Very floral. I'll let those roots compost in place. I think that's going to give more room for the zinnias to grow, and that will be really nice. I decided to go ahead and pull up these cilantro plants because this one bed is looking a little bit messy, and I actually want to use these plants as some compost in place / living mulch. And so what I'm going to do is not waste this. I'm going to go ahead and cut all the cilantro back, and then I'm going to take these cuttings and I'm going to go put them on the bed where I just planted potatoes not that long ago. It's going to be a while before the potatoes start sprouting, and I really don't want that soil to be uncovered for 2 to 3 weeks that it's going to take for those potatoes to come up. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these cuttings right here on the potatoes, and then by the time the potatoes are sprouted, these cilantro plants are going to be broken down in no time. So it's kind of like a little bit of living mulch. This is my petite floret dahlia bed, and the plants weren't getting very big, and I couldn't figure out why, because my other dahlias that I have around the garden are huge. And then it dawned on me, the name of the flower is petite floret, hence a smaller plant. So I had gone through and planted calendula between some of them. I think I had like 1 or 2 plants die as well. I planted some cosmos and sunflowers. The sunflowers look great. They're not really taking away from the dahlias, but the calendula was, so I went ahead and pulled the calendula, gave a little bit more room for the zucchini plants. I pulled all the cilantro. I'm leaving the sunflowers just to give them a little bit more space. I really am glad the look of this, kind of getting this cleaned up. Right where I put all of the cilantro, I went ahead and used that as mulch because I have potatoes planted there, and it's going to be a while before the potatoes sprout up. So my thought is I'm going to cover it, use it as like living compost. The potatoes will start to grow after, by the time the cilantro just kind of breaks down. And then over here, I did some cleaning up around the garden with just some random things. Some of the cilantro's in here, there's just a bunch of random different things in here. These potatoes in this bed right here are ready to harvest. But my dad is out of town and these potatoes right here aren't quite ready to harvest. So in 10-ish days, we are gonna plan a time for my dad to come and we're gonna harvest all these potatoes. These potatoes here should be dyed back by the time, it might be 2 weeks by the time we harvest. So I thought what I would do, instead of leave this soil completely bare, because there was nothing, those plants had completely died, I'll just put some living compost on there, let it compost, keep that soil protected until we're ready to harvest the potatoes. Oh, and I did say that a couple of the varieties of potatoes never flowered before they started dying back. And a bunch of you reassured me that it's okay, not all potato varieties flower. I didn't know that, so now I do, and now you do too. I'm trying to look and see what flowers I want to harvest to make our garlic braid. And I want to make sure these plants are nice and dry, which they are. Went a little heavy-handed on planting in this bed, so I'm coming through and cleaning up and pulling some of these flowers that I had put in here because they're crowding out my peppers. And right now I want to prioritize my peppers over these snapdragons. Weeds in here, which unfortunately went to seed, so that's going to be a problem for next year. These plants now have a lot more room to breathe and grow, which I think is good. So what I think I'm going to do now is harvest all these peppers and throw them in the freezer for when I have a lot more, and then I can make a hot sauce. But I want to give these a try. I'm a little scared. I have no idea how hot these are. It's not hot at all. Okay. There's a bunny that just hopped right behind that rock. There it is. Do you see it? This has a really nice sweet heat to it. I'm going to see if I can show you this bunny. I'm pretty sure there's a family of bunnies. You see my sunflower? That's a volunteer sunflower up there. There she is. Do you see her? This has some heat once you get into the seed area. But it's not crazy hot. I was expecting those to be okay. Now that I've chewed the seed, it's hot, but very, very doable. Not blow your head off, fire hot. I think I'm going to just harvest all these peppers. And what I'm going to do is encourage this plant to put on even more peppers because the flavor of these is really good. It has kind of a sweetness to it. They do turn from purple to red. Oops, I didn't mean to pick part of that plant off. I have a couple jalapenos over here. We've been harvesting jalapenos a lot. Now that is starting to look like a summer harvest. I have one slicing tomato that's relatively red at this point. I believe that's a Paul Robeson tomato. That was my first slicing tomato to be ready last year. I'm coming around here to look at the name. It says it is Sugar Rush, but I thought the Sugar Rush tomatoes were orange, and that is red. But I touched it and it's not firm yet, so we aren't supposed to get any rain for the foreseeable future, so I'm just going to let it ripen there and I'll pick it in a couple days. If it was going to rain, I would pick it now and let it finish ripening inside so we don't run the risk of it splitting. So here are our flowers that we are going to go braid with our garlic. There is a pea tendril stuck in here. I'll deal with that later. I was trying to think if I was going to add any of these maybe I will. I'll bring these up and maybe we'll add those to our garlic braid as well. I wonder if, what is this called? Feverfew, that's what these little white flowers are related to chamomile, because they almost smell like it and obviously they kind of look like it, but I don't know. I'll have to look that up. So let's go make our garlic braid now. And then I do need to harvest all the blueberries today that are ripe, but I think I want to make my garlic braid. So what I'm going to do is tear off the leaves on the base of these stalks. I might tear all of them off. Get these in some water. Does that look good with that? Yeah. So on a whim, I decided to go live and make this garlic braid with you all live. So if you may have already seen how I made this, but if you haven't, I will link how I went ahead and I made this garlic braid. I think it is absolutely stunning. It has 12 heads of soft nut garlic in it. The white flower is status. This is straw flower, and you can see that I obviously harvested way more than I needed, and I didn't end up using any of this feverfew in here, because I know straw flower and status are a very good drying flower. I wasn't sure how these would dry up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this hung up inside. I know exactly where I wanna put it. There was a hook or a nail left here from the previous owner. They probably had like a, calendar or something here. So I'm gonna hang that there. And there is our 2024's garlic braid with our flowers in it. This is a dream come true. Now I may, I'm not an expert. Next year I'll probably get them a little bit tighter together, but I think that looks absolutely beautiful. I still want to go out and harvest blueberries because those need to be harvested today. But I figured since this is what I usually harvest my blueberries with, Josh is here getting some breakfast. You're totally fine, Josh. No worries. He's having French toast that we meal prep together, and peanut butter and homemade jam. So I'm gonna have this zucchini for dinner tonight. We're gonna have these tomatoes. Did you see these peppers, Josh,
Yeah, they look awesome.
Looks pretty.
The ones are cool.
I'm gonna turn them into hot sauce. I've got these tomatoes. So this is gonna be our veggie for dinner tonight. I'm just gonna set this over here. I'll worry about washing those later. I'm gonna put my peppers on this cutting board, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna put these up for later use. I've got 2 Ziploc bags here. Put this in here. There's a lot of these little peppers. So you could throw these into the freezer whole like this, but I am gonna take the step to go ahead and process them a little bit more so that they're gonna be easy to use. These sugar snap peas, put in a bowl. I'm just gonna throw these in the fridge after I wash them. Oh, that's what I should do right now. Let me wash them right now since they're in this bowl by themselves. These are just gonna go into the fridge and we will eat these fresh, or maybe I'll fry them up in some butter and some salt because that is my favorite way to have these. So I'll just pop those in the fridge in just a second. But what I'm gonna do with these peppers, we will wash them, but first, all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep the seeds in and everything. I'm just gonna chop the tops off, put them into my colander, and we will freeze them whole with like, because I'm not sure exactly what I wanna do with these. If they're gonna be turned into salsa or if they're going to be turned into hot sauce. So it'll just be easier. I'm putting these in the colander so I can wash them. I think these peppers are supposed to get bigger than the ones that I have here, but I think that they were getting kind of crowded out by a lot of those flowers that I thinned out today. So hopefully the second flush of these peppers will be on the bigger side. I'm gonna go wash these. I think I want to dry these out just a little bit, just so there's not any excess moisture on them. I don't really want to touch the cut ends of those, just in case they are pretty hot. And the one I ate wasn't too hot, so we got that in our bag. And there is the first bit of peppers going into the freezer. Peppers are one of my favorite things to grow, even though I've never had like a huge pepper harvest, but I've always had quite enough to make hot sauce, at least some hot sauce. Sometimes I have to supplement my pepper harvest with a local farm, but this year maybe that will be different because I can already see that there's a lot of starts of peppers out there. So now what I'm gonna do is take that I didn't harvest today, like little Anaheims and little banana peppers. We have harvested some banana peppers, I guess, and some shishito peppers. I'm just gonna clean out my colander, and I'm gonna head out and we are going to harvest a lot of blueberries. I think the rain that we just had was a good thing for the blueberries because we go out there almost every day and we don't pick them all. We try to just pick the ones that are nice and ripe, but because we haven't been out there in a few days, I think there's gonna be a lot more ripe ones ready to go. So last time we were in here together, this bush back here hadn't started ripening yet, and now we are seeing quite a bit of ripe fruit. But this bush, I think almost all the berries are completely ready. So I'm going to take quite a bit of time dedicated to harvesting a lot of these blueberries. The goal here will be to eat as many as we want fresh, but I want to make sure I get these into the house so I can keep a close eye on them. And if I need to throw them in the freezer, I can do that. And one of you mentioned, which I haven't done any Googling on, that you can actually ripen blueberries inside on the counter. I had no idea. And that is very interesting to me because I've been trying to ripen them on the vine. And if you could ripen them inside, they would be more protected from wildlife. There are 7 blueberry plants in this little area, and this is probably the 4th or 5th colander that I have harvested this size. Plus, we come out here and eat blueberries off the bush, and they don't even end up inside regularly. And there are still quite a bit of blueberries on there that are ripe, but because that is our tradition or our routine now, is to come out here almost every day and harvest at night and check on the bees as a family. I want to make sure that I leave quite a few in there so we can do that tonight, even if we're going to eat quite a bit of the blueberries I just harvested fresh. I'm just going to stick these on the counter and we will just eat these off the counter. I want to give a little update on the bees. The bees are doing fantastic. They are hopefully living their best life. Josh, oh, shoot, that could have been a whole lot worse. I will wash these before we eat them. Josh did order another box so that they can have another box to fill with honey. So I'll just talk to you while I pick up these blueberries. So right now there are 2 boxes on there. The bottom box is where the queen lives and where she's laying eggs and they grow the hive. And then the top box is where they're filling honey. I think we made the choice that we're not gonna harvest any honey except for maybe a little bit to taste this year. And we're gonna put a 3rd box on there. We've ordered it, we're just waiting for it to come, so that they can fill that box with honey, so that when we do collect honey in the spring, next spring, we will collect from the top box and we will always leave one middle box for them for their own food supply. Because our goal is to try not to have to feed them sugar water in the winter. We want to see if they can build up a big enough supply of honey throughout the year so that we'll be able to harvest some for ourselves and they will be able to eat it throughout the winter, because honey is their food source. They create honey so that they can eat it throughout the winter because flowers aren't growing. Okay, I think I got almost all these blueberries. If I missed a few, the wildlife will find them. That's a lot of blueberries. It is now later in the day. It is warmer, and I'm gonna go inside and get cleaned up, put these away, and get going on a couple other things that I need to get to today. But it was a fantastic harvest and kind of garden maintenance day, I would say, because we cleaned up quite a few things and we were able to feed the chickens some good scraps, which is going to be fantastic for them so that they could eat that and play with that and give them a little bit of enrichment. And I'm going to go inside and get cleaned up. So if you want to watch some more videos, I'll pop some videos here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I'll pop the live here where we made that garlic braid if you missed that and you want to see how I made that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.